It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
You want something, go get it. Period.
You gotta keep moving, let's keep moving, let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left.
This is where we have been, this is how we got here, this is who we are.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
You're listening to the Hustle Indie Show, sponsored by FS Houses, where we seek out some of Indie's most hustling people and places to learn about what they do, how they got started, and where they're going. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of the Hustle Indie Show. This one is a special milestone for us because, what number is this, Ian?
Number 10. We reached the double digits, Brendan.
We have reached the double digits milestone, and we are so excited for all that we've done and all that we have in store. How are you doing today, Ian?
I'm doing great. I was just, before this episode started, thinking about it. We are somehow have reached 10 episodes. I did not expect that to happen.
It's going a lot faster than I expected, I can honestly say.
Yeah, it is. We record a lot of these in pretty quick succession, and the amount of, popularity that this is getting already is kind of blowing my mind.
No, to think that we have had the opportunity to sit down with 10 unique people from the Indianapolis area to learn about their stories, to learn about what they do, and just highlight kind of them and their story is so cool.
It's been honestly a blessing, and I'm so glad for FS Houses for making that happen.
Yes.
And they are a sponsor of this episode of the Hustle Indie Show, episode 10, 10 episodes strong. So thank you, FS Houses. So FS Houses is a local real estate brokerage, and they specialize in anything real estate, from property management, investments, traditional sales, or anything else that you might have questions about real estate related. And they'll bring you a personal touch to sometimes a confusing world of real estate. And they also offer marketing services, so photo, video, website creation, and much, much more. Just reach out to FS Houses through fshouses.com. Again, that is fshouses.com. Thank you so much, FS Houses, for sponsoring another episode.
Yes, we cannot thank FS Houses enough for sponsoring the show. Again, I cannot stress how awesome it is to be able to take time out of my day to come and interview and just learn more about some awesome people. So thank you, FS Houses, for making that possible. Well, today we have quite the special guest with us here on the Hustle Indie Show. We would like to welcome Catherine Esselman, who is the Interim Executive Director of the City Market.
That's just a title.
Yeah. Yes. So welcome to the show, Catherine.
Yeah, welcome.
Hi, guys.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to hear more about you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what exactly does the position Interim Executive Director do
Oh, man.
for you?
Well, we're a mighty staff of 3.
Okay.
Pretty much at the market. We have our Josie, who does PR and events, but she takes on a lot. We also have Mandy, who we have a farmer's market every Wednesday.
Oh, really?
In the summer months. And so those two are the co-market managers. And then we have a great maintenance housekeeping staff that keeps the place running. So there's a big facility. It's 134 years old, the Indianapolis City Market.
Wow.
And it takes a lot of things to do. So I do all the other stuff. We are, you guys say you like the City Market, so you're probably aware that there's construction on Market Street right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine that's a lot to handle.
It's just working around it a bit. So we just, so telling people it's open, trying to get some exposure for all of the vendors and restaurants and spots inside, which is, would love to talk any more about all of the good.
Of course.
Yeah, so I'm rambling, but
you're good.
There's a lot going on. So I started this role at the end of August, beginning of September.
Okay, so fairly new.
And it will be over fairly soon. They are looking to make an offer to the new executive director, and I will work in that transition and then go back to my job at the Indie Chamber.
Oh, okay. So Indie Chamber, what do you do for them?
Yeah, so I am on the economic development team, Develop Indie, and I work on representing kind of our retail and small business community and how we incorporate that into economic development.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's jump to the beginning before we get too far into the weeds
Yeah, this
here.
is not the beginning, right?
Yeah, that's right. So tell us a little bit more about you, kind of more personally.
Oh, sure.
And how, where are you from?
Yep.
Where'd you grow up? Kind of where'd you go to school?
Yep.
What'd you go to school for? And how did you get into these roles that you're in right now?
Okay. Well, I'm here with you guys because I went to high school with Ryan Mullen.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And his wife, Ashley.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I went to Chittard. That's
Okay.
if the audience probably knows a little bit about Mullen, but
sure.
he went to Chittard. I did as well.
Okay.
And my folks live in Meridian Kessler.
Okay.
And so that's where I was raised. And then I went to school at Xavier University in Cincinnati.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, go Muskies. And I love Cincinnati. It's probably the only other Midwestern city I'd live in again. I kind of done a Midwestern tour. So here, Cincinnati, and then I lived in Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
For 5-6 years.
Wow,
and I worked for a commercial shopping center owner.
Wow. Okay.
Gotcha.
And so I leased malls and lifestyle centers for them for a couple of years on the West Coast. But lived in Cleveland, which is another cool city that's really coming into its own. And then I moved back 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And landed here in Fountain Square.
And then since you've been back, have you been for the chamber or?
Yeah, no, I was for myself. So I ran a small little brokerage firm.
Oh, cool.
And actually helped these guys get this space.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you study when you were at Xavier?
Spanish.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we were just listening to Spanish
were
music
just
before you came in.
Yeah, I did. I lived in Spain for a year when I was in school. And when you aren't much of a planner, I'm not much of a planner, and you live overseas for a year, and they say you think you're going to be a marketing major in communications, and then they say, oh, well, no, you have all your credits are in Spanish, so instead of a Spanish minor, you're going to need to figure out, and if you want to graduate in 4 years, which I did.
Right.
So anyway, yes. So I was a Spanish major in college, and my first job out of school was selling appliances for H.H. Gregg.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
I still don't really know what I want to do, but so at least I'm consistent in my not sureness. But yeah, so that's a bit
So
about
you
me.
went from a Spanish major out of college and living in Spain and to then H.H. Gregg.
Yep.
What was the next step after that? And that was in Cincinnati?
That was in Cincinnati,
Okay.
yeah. So a northern suburb of Cincinnati.
Gotcha.
And I sold washers and dryers and dishwashers. And it was a 100% commission gig.
Really?
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I
Wow.
liked the flexibility and I
Sure,
didn't
sure.
mind sales. It's kind of fun. So I did that. And then I got a job at a staffing company called Aerotech.
Okay.
And my job was to call people off of their resumes on Career Builder, Monster, whatever those sites were, and say, hey, I got a job. It's an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
And it's contract, and you on your resume say you can do that. You want that job? And so then I try to place people with positions.
Gotcha.
And then I got, while I was there, that was just called a recruiter. So you just are calling people, recruiting them to take this job. And then I became an account manager where I had to go sell to the end companies and said, hey, you put an ad in the paper. You still have this opening? What if we tried to fill it? So
Yeah.
I don't know. As I'm talking out loud, it feels like a therapy session. But as I'm talking, it feels like I like to solve problems and connect people.
Right.
And that's been a consistent thing about my career. And then so Aerotech, then to Cleveland for DDR.
Okay.
And called
DDR. What is that?
So it's now a different name, but it was Developers Diversified Realty, and they were are a publicly traded REIT. I think at the time they owned about the third amount of total square footage behind Simon and Kimco, I think. So it was all retail, power centers, strip centers, enclosed malls.
Gotcha.
And my job was to go through the rent rolls for centers and say, your lease is up. Would you like to renew? And then negotiate the renewals and execute the amendments. And I was just a sponge, right? Like I just wanted to know the stuff.
Yeah.
So got promoted there and became a leasing manager where I had properties and I tried to, keep them filled. And your audience knows about commercial real estate. Yeah, I mean, is this
I would hope. Yeah.
Okay, so,
Entrepreneur.
Yeah, right. So my job was to arrange the deck chairs a bit as to who should go where, who's coming up. So a lot of strategy on that. But it was cool because all my properties were in California, Arizona, Texas. And I got to work on some pre-development deals of just, that's 10 acres and you want to do 500,000 square feet, something like that, or some,
Were you able to go visit your properties frequently?
Yeah,
I would say I would take advantage of that.
Continental was a big hub out of Cleveland, and so those were, I caught any flight west that way.
Wow. Yep.
And got a lot of good miles out of it. I mean, it was a fun time to do it. I was mid-20s and got an apartment in downtown Cleveland, right, that overlooked, it overlooked the river, or excuse me, the lake, but then you could see the Brown Stadium. And
wow.
It was a fun.
That's beautiful, yeah.
It's a fun spot to be.
Cool.
Okay, so then, I'm just trying to get this timetable right, and then you moved to Indianapolis after Cleveland.
Yes.
After doing a lot of that moving, and you started your own brokerage, is that correct?
Yeah, so my family is a commercial real estate family, and my brother out of Chicago started Penn Real Estate. We grew up in Pennsylvania. He named his company Penn, and so I kind of jumped onto his brand a bit, but I was, doing deals in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So the website, we had 2 locations, 2 offices to serve your commercial real estate needs, Chicago and Indianapolis. Gotcha. And so we pivoted in 2008, to try to do more multifamily and investment sales.
Okay.
Because that was what was trading at the time.
Yeah.
Nothing else was. The tenant rep work that my dad had built the company on, he was J.F. Esselman, Inc., aptly named. Just, again, relationships. That's how he did his business. He didn't grow it that much. So we were a 3-pronged stool of helping investors, owners, or businesses with their commercial real estate needs. And then here locally, I sold a couple buildings, and I actually represented the owner of where Milktooth is now and sold that to the Batista family. So.
Cool.
Gotcha.
So is family what ultimately brought you back to Indianapolis?
Yeah.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of 4.
Oh, okay.
And my sister lives here now, but my big brother and his family are in Chicago, as I referenced. And then my sister, her family, are a military family. So they've lived kind of all over, and now they're in Tampa.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Gotcha. So why did you, besides family, was there any sort of business aspect to coming to Indianapolis? Or was it generally just like, I need to get back close to my family? Or like, because with commercial real estate...
I just realized you haven't seen my face. Hello, everyone.
With commercial real estate, that's pretty prominent anywhere. So also with that question, why did you also choose commercial over that? Was that, again, just a family reason?
Yeah, pretty much. It was what I knew, what I was comfortable with. Let me try again. So people just have emotions everywhere, right?
Right.
It just comes through every aspect, whether it's for a business purpose or your home.
Yeah.
And I approached it from trying to minimize a bit of the emotions. And residential is so fraught with that.
Very much, yeah.
And business or commercial, it's income producing. You have
What
much
numbers?
Clearer metrics to evaluate why you're going to do that. And so it felt like that gets you to the closing table a little bit quicker or more with less pain.
Yeah.
And again, so my dad did commercial tenant representation work. So he exclusively represented tenants but on industrial, office, retail. And so that was, it worked for him. I was like, well, I want to give that a try.
Yeah.
So I did. But that was the move for DDR was I should cut my teeth somewhere. I got to learn from a bigger fish all the different ways. And then, so what's been cool about my career, especially been in Indianapolis, is even growing up here, moving away, coming back, being able to forge my own kind of path with what that was going to look like. And it was intentional to live in Fountain Square or live in downtown and not move back to Broad Ripple or Meridian Kessler where I grew up. Just to be able to get to know the city in a different lens than I did growing up.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's definitely feels like a new city from where I grew up. So it's the same, but it's so very different.
And so now that we've kind of caught up to almost the present.
Sorry.
So when did you, no, this is great. So when did you transfer from working in commercial real estate to your current position?
Sure. 2014,
Okay.
I was hired as the real estate manager for Downtown Indy Inc.
Okay.
And that role was really, I can't say enough good things about that role, because what a cool time to be doing it for downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Right.
And the longtime director, Tamara Zahn, had recently stepped down, and Sherry Seiwert was in her role for, I think she had been in about a year. So it was an interesting, she was new into the role, and when people are new into things, they just have a lot more, a fresh take on what I can go. And Downtown Indy Inc. is it's a nonprofit, small but strong firm, been around 25 years. And there was a lot of freedom in what story do we want to tell about downtown from a real estate perspective. And so we did housing tours, and we did, developer panels, and just really trying to introduce people who don't know downtown to how they can experience it through live, learn, work, and play.
You mentioned earlier that like one passion that you have is to solve problems and help people.
Yes.
In what ways does that passion influence the way you go about your current positions, or like that position specifically too?
Yeah. So one problem that I saw glaringly living downtown was the amount of first floor vacancies that we have in some of our multifamily, newer constructions, newer builds. So we have, never been occupied, cold, dark shell, no power, not occupiable.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make, on paper, I understand that. But for the health of the city, for growing the base, for getting the tenants upstairs to renew.
Yeah.
That's everybody's goal, is that we not only retain the tenants we've got, but that we add more. As we add more units, you got to have more people to fill the units. So, and through my lens of retail, it was, that's a low-hanging fruit. That's something that we could work together to solve. So a program we created was called Startup 317. And it's been, we've done 2.5 seasons of it. We're supposed to launch again, or we were supposed to have about 25 different activations following the red line from downtown to Broader Bowl. That was supposed to happen in May of 2020. So, yeah. So anyway, so I counted 2.5 because we still did stuff, but not the way we wanted to do it. But the first 2 seasons identified vacant, occupiable first floor space, and then held an open call out to brands that wanted to have the space for the month of May and do pop-up shops.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So we did that in 2018. We did it again in 19. We did it in 20, and we hope to do it again in 2021. But to the present day of the amount of real estate that will be available when we get out of this is going to be a lot higher. And we're going to have, because when we approached it, the first couple seasons was, well, what real estate can we get? Who wants to give us their space for free for a month? Because it's truly a bartering of, you're not doing anything else with it, so
might as well make the most of it.
Might as well let people. Your phone's going to ring more than it was otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
And what you do with the phone call,
that's up to you.
That's up to you. But the phone's going to ring because we're going to have eyes on it, and people are going to be talking about it, and all these brands are going to be talking about their new location.
Yeah.
And you might get a lead out of that, and so most developers said, okay, but we're not going to. It is what it is. It's what it is. So, anyway, so now I think we're going to have the more spaces that are kind of move-in ready, because unfortunately those tenants that were in that space are not there anymore or can't be there anymore. So we're going to have to be, and what's consumer confidence in shopping, and how do we do that? So I'm going on a tangent.
No, you're good.
This is great. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking about for how I continue to solve problems from a real estate, equity, and activation lens.
So on a practical level, what does that look like on a day-to-day to you? So like pre-pandemic, let's say,
sure.
on a normal
Sure,
day,
yeah.
what does solving those problems for businesses look like? Is it a lot of phone calls to business and being like, hey, I see you have an opening. Can we do something?
Yeah.
Or what does your day-to-day kind of look like?
Oh, that's a funny question. I also have a 4-year-old. So
Oh, yay. That's fun.
that's what my day-to-day looks like, is whatever his
Sure,
day-to-day
sure. Yeah.
needs to be. But let's see. Yeah, so we pre-pandemic was ramping up. We had identified, we did a juried selection for the brands that were going to be going. And we had, I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago, but we were excited about what was ahead. We had another concept that I think might make more sense in the going forward, and that was an incubator space. So helping to bridge the gap between what a tenant can actually pay in their first year of building their brand to what a landlord thinks their space is worth.
Gotcha.
And trying to get those two sides to see, and with the end goal being, how do we build the bench of brands, of artists, of creatives that can actually start taking some of these spaces. So at the Chamber, we have an entrepreneur business program called BOI, but we do one-on-one small business coaching, and we help individuals or brands or companies with kind of pricing out what it really looks like, how they really get it from something or nothing to something. And I take an approach of how do we incorporate that, specifically if they're interacting with the public, they want to be selling, they want to have a storefront feel, how we help grow those. And it comes with what's good real estate. So I know you asked day to day, but I don't have a day to day, man. I just
Cool. I like that.
Take each day by
I
its
don't.
horns.
Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna do any of the things that 2020 has brought, but
Sure.
and that's where I'm at. So
For those businesses that you're reaching out to, or I
Yeah.
guess trying to fill spaces, do you have like a wide array of types of businesses, or?
yeah, I haven't delved into things that require health department approval,
Okay.
just to keep it cleaner.
Like food service and
Yep.
things like that? Okay.
Yep, I haven't, because again, pre-pandemic, that stuff filled itself. Like we
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of vacant, good restaurant spaces.
Yeah,
Sure.
Just the build out, the rents, the price per ticket. Like it's just it's a market that I said that doesn't need my help.
Right.
I'm gonna let that market handle itself. The more soft good retailers, fashion, products like homemade products, bath and I don't know. I think of Anata, like those types of shops that do are really good at what they do, and they curate and they shop well and they support, and those are the ones I want to work with.
Sure.
So we've partnered with Pattern, which is a fashion collective here in Indianapolis, and they are the creative mojo. I'm the get the real estate, get the relationships, get the fundraising, and then kind of I know that my brain just doesn't work in the same creative manner. My creativity comes out, I don't know, differently.
Yeah.
So having that tap into the right creative audience of Indianapolis, and it's an application process. So we ask them, why do you want the space? What are you going to do with it? What's your business plan? What's your social following? How are you kind of growing your business, and how would this help set you over the edge? How would this be your next logical step?
Do you seem to have more spaces than vendors, or more vendors than spaces?
I think the first couple seasons we had more vendors than spaces.
Oh, that's good.
And
that's
then I think this year, I think we're going to have more spaces.
Sure.
And
As expected, probably.
and the, because this won't, so much. It's just so much.
Yeah.
But yes. Yeah.
So I do have a question about the pandemic with real estate, as I'm personally kind of aware of the traditional side of it, but with the commercial, how has it affected you guys? Has it really slowed things down? Because with what we're doing here, some of the things have slowed down, but also the market is really hot when it comes to that. So how does that look like commercially?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my teammates at Develop Indy, their job is to evaluate deals that are brought to the city. So to buy this office building, redevelop that parcel, a new company needing a new headquarters. So it's really cool being a fly on the wall on those conversations because deal momentum hasn't slowed down. Okay. I think scopes have changed a little bit. Definitely timelines have changed, but interest remains very strong in this market as an investment or as a spot to relocate. If I've said before, I think we're a solid B+ market, right? We're we're probably a good 18-hour a day market. We're never going to be a 24-hour a day city, but we're surely more than we were. So there's a sweet spot for a lot of businesses that are looking for that sweet spot. So we're not for everybody, but I think our light continues to shine pretty bright from a definitely a regional and hopefully more of a national perspective.
That's awesome.
So speaking of like this past 6 months, where do you see it going forward from here? So ideally, the pandemic ends in the next couple months.
Sure.
Where do you see the Indianapolis commercial market growing? Because Indianapolis is the city in the middle of the country. Businesses love to come here, set up plants or whatever it is. Do you see that growth continuing? Do you see that slowing down, but at a bigger pace, or how does that look like?
That's a great question. It's a very macroly influenced thing, right? So where does money flow from the top, and does it make its way to the businesses here, here locally and here growing, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we'll know more once they decide if that's, what those looks like and how they help small businesses. Because that's really my area that I think the most about is, if they've had to tighten the belts, right? Because there's been not the same flow, PPP dollars, restart, all these different dollars that have hit. If they can count on more, then they might feel a little bit more bullish on doubling down or hiring back. I think we got to get back to the levels we were at pre-pandemic and then see what growth looks like. But we got some ground to make up in head counts and in size, working from home and in businesses evaluating their productivity with not having this people around them all the time.
Right.
I know architecture, engineering, construction firms, like their business pipeline has not slowed down, but they've had to say, we do better work when we're together.
Yeah.
And so if you're comfortable, how can we be together? How can we make that interaction more? And I know the chamber, for our purposes, we found we were actually pretty productive, in our own spheres during the height of this. And so because productivity levels haven't dropped, they're saying, okay, well then we'll keep working from home, right? Because you guys got this. You're all doing your paths. You're checking in when you need. You're getting it. But we're not producing the same work product. So I think so much of it comes from the type of work product you're producing. What sort of, hey man, take a look at this design. Hey, what do you like this color? Like that water cooler talk. What I think, though, is interesting in talking to small businesses or companies, not just businesses, is that like the meetings that happen after the meetings, you guys know? Like, you're on like a Zoom call. Some people are in the office in their own spots, and then other people are dialing in, and then everyone, okay, meeting ends, they close up. But the people that are there can continue talking and have the meeting after the meeting. And so it's just...
Sometimes that's where the most productive parts happen.
Right. And so if you're the company culture, how do you balance somebody's comfort level with being around other people and those types of productivity, but also socially engaging, right? Because then you hear about the kids and you hear about the stuff going on, and we're social creatures.
Very much so.
So, so this is how I solve it, is I just wear my mask everywhere I go, and I wear my filter. I train, I just do the things that they tell me is what you're supposed to do in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know. I think a lot of it, though, to go back to your original question, was the future look like? When does consumer confidence come back? When do we feel like we've got a handle on this and buy-in from the collective that this is what we're going to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And we're far away from collective buy-in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So through your experiences through, I guess, the last several months, and your type of business in general, what have been some lessons that you've learned or things that might have been brought to the surface that need growth?
Dude, so much.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a good question because I'm stumped. What have I learned? To be inspired, to want to work hard to help others. Like that's the thing with the chamber and the city and trying to get these federal care dollars out to small businesses who need them. So my role was to help do some back paperwork to make sure, they submitted all their information. So basically, if we get audited, everything's right.
Yeah.
But there was dollars to get out that these businesses really, really needed. So that was inspiring because I haven't touched a project like that before. So when I'm sitting in front of a spreadsheet and my son just wants me to come downstairs and, because he loved it, man. He was home. He's been in school since he was 6 months old. So this was time that neither one of us really knew how to fully embrace. So he was home with me March, April, May, June, July, and I was still working full time. And that's unique.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about being a mom, and then also being a productive member of trying to help my community.
That's really good.
I'm curious. So you said what inspires you is trying to solve problems.
It is.
So how do you translate that into your day-to-day, and how do you keep that inspiration going from your day-to-day?
Yeah. Great question.
Because in your field of work, sometimes you don't get that gratification of solving a problem very quickly.
No. So how I knew I solved problems as a broker is I got paid. I went to the deal and I solved the problem for my client who I was representing. Nonprofit work is a little bit grayer.
Yeah.
And a little bit eye of the beholder where you get satisfaction from. I'll give you an example. So because Market Street's closed and it feels insurmountable, like how to just even get into the market, right? It's because there's these barricades and green mesh and you got to want to get there and you got to know where you're going.
Yep.
But because traffic is down so much, right? We went from having on any given day over 200,000 people in downtown Indianapolis to now maybe having 25,000 people, give or take.
Goodness.
I mean, so just when you think about daytime traffic and conventions and hotels, and that just stopping, the city market tenants inside, I mean, you got to tell people they're there and they rely on that kind of walk-up traffic. So I definitely haven't solved the problem, but one area that I saw as an opportunity was to hire artists to install murals on the barricades. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
This past Saturday, Halloween. Was that 2 Saturdays? Yeah, it was just, 10 days ago, something like that. We, Deanna Craig, who is a Startup 317 alumni, I hired her to curate it and to put out a call and to get it done. And it turned out really, really cool. So
I saw them making it. I was like, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
It makes it so much more appealing.
It does.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of kind of low-hanging fruit that gives me a sense of, I did that.
Right.
And then you got to move on to the next thing you're going to do. But, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to get a little deep, but you feel like you take a step forward with that sort of activation, and then you take a couple steps back with the fear that permeates downtown since the end of May, beginning of June. And right now there are a lot more boards on the windows than there was even then. And so it's once bitten, twice shy, I guess, is probably what commercial owners are thinking about. But in terms of what we're trying to build in the city, that doesn't help. It feels almost like of a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's just not my outlook. I'd rather, it's just property.
Right.
So that's what I try to do.
So if there was someone that came up to you with similar aspirations, similar drive to solve problems, help people, but also specifically in your line of work,
Sure.
what advice would you give that person?
Move to Cincinnati and
Honestly, try some stuff. Try some shit. If you've always lived in one place and you've always done things one way, you won't have the same success.
Yeah,
It just won't work because you wouldn't know that there's other ways to think about
a
things.
different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself too much of an empath, but I do believe that being empathetic and trying to be able to read the room and understand what your role is and what role's not yours, right? Like that's, again, the humbling thing about being a broker is you're not the buyer and you're not the seller.
Sure.
And you can't control a lot of things. So understanding what you can control, and that's usually yourself, and that's kind of about it.
Yeah.
Then how do you set yourself up? And don't overpromise and underdeliver. That's advice my dad gave me that I really keep to heart of, because you're just going to end up with egg on your face.
Yeah.
And that's, you only got is your word. So don't tell him it's going to, I'll get you 50% over what you asked, right? Like, don't say that because you aren't.
Yeah.
And if you do, bully. Cool for you.
Right.
But don't it just sets yourself up for, I don't know. I guess that'd be another way of saying don't expect instant gratification.
Yeah.
It's a long game. But enjoy the days until you get there.
Yeah. That's good.
All right. Well, Catherine, it was
Yeah.
great having you on today.
Yeah.
If anybody that's
Thanks.
watching or listening wants to contact you, learn more about what you do,
Yeah.
what's the best way to find you?
Oh, shoot. I have way too many email addresses right now because I have kind of my personal one and City Market. I don't know. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That one stays pretty consistent. I'm there. I just made a post today, but you guys won't see it because it's later. But that's my best
LinkedIn.
idea.
All right.
Perfect.
Perfect. And we can link that absolutely to all
Yeah,
of this
we'll
as
make
well.
sure everyone sees that. Well, it was great getting to know you and hear more about what you do.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to see
Yeah.
your problem solving and your helping throughout the community of
You're going to
Indianapolis.
make me blush behind my mouth. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming.
Yep.
Thank you all for watching. Thanks for listening if you're listening. Be sure to subscribe. Check us out on all of our social media. And be sure to check Catherine out as well. So with that, we will say see you in the next episode.
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. Thank
Sure,
you so much.
thanks.
It was great meeting you.